Hi everyone, my name is Vina aka Miss WOCReader and welcome back to my channel. It is nighttime when I'm filming this, so forgive the lighting. I feel like I look a little bit bright and like scarily bright, but the lighting situation is what it is. I hate the snow. The snow came down hard and heavy for the first time in we haven't had snow like this in a long time. I was not ready. And I'm like, why could this type of snow not have happened during the years where I was working from home and didn't have to leave all winter? Why is it happening now when I have to go into the office 3 days a week? I don't love that, because even though I do work from home 2 days a week, they still wanted us in the office, which was, I'm not a fan of that. And so it's been a struggle bus getting in there. Luckily, I don't have to move my car and scramble for parking. I don't live on the type of street where that's really conducive because I live on a very narrow street. It's hard to find parking spaces as is. Most nights, when I have to leave and go for the day, I don't get a space on my street. And I'm usually trying to get a space the next day. But this, it's just terrible. Nobody wants to leave unless they absolutely have to. There's too much ice everywhere. There's mounds of snow and nowhere to put it. So I've been carpooling, which has kind of, switched up my routine, because normally I'm the type of person who will listen to an audiobook in the morning on my way to work. And that's how I get some of my reading done. And I can't do that right now because I'm carpooling with somebody else. So then I need to read more at night to make up for that. But at the same time, there's just so much going on. You get home tired, you just want to relax and unwind and not have to look at anything for a little bit. But also I need to cook dinner and stuff like that. And then I have content that I'm always working on editing, because I'm filming little things here and there, different obligations for things I need to review on Instagram, but also so much content I want to share with you guys on BookTube. So I suspect that February is going to be another hectic month, especially with all the snow still on the ground that doesn't seem like it's going to move anytime soon. I finished Burn Down Master's House by Clay Kane, and it did take me a little bit of time to really get into it at first. I did the audiobook, and he does the narration for the audiobook. It's a bit of an adjustment listening to the author narrate it, because he doesn't do it in the more cinematic storytelling way that I'm used to. So it's a little bit of an adjustment, but then I got used to it and that was fine. And I started getting more and more into the stories the further we got. Without giving too much away, it's split into different chapters. And they're long chapters, even though the book is quite short. So you really get time to sit with these characters and feel for them. I like that he included queer characters here, because people act like queer characters just popped up out of thin air sometime in the 80s, and that's not what happened. There's always been queer people around and in the community, and I'm glad that this book starts off by giving them space. And overall, it was very inspiring, because all of these stories were inspired by real people and what their story could be if we knew more about them. And some of them were pretty badass, and it's great to remember the sacrifices that the people who came before us made so that we could have the freedoms that we do have today. And I know a lot of people in the book community are like, oh my gosh, we need to move away from those trauma books and this and that. But I feel like most people have not read a whole lot about slavery. They might have seen maybe one or two movies, and maybe read a book or so from the white perspective, but they have not heard the stories told like this, and I definitely recommend it. So during Snowmageddon, I ended up reading Deadly Ever After. This one is by Brittany Johnson, I just wanted some books that I figured were going to be quick and easy reads that weekend. And so this one had been sitting on my shelf for a couple of months. I got it from the publisher and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna finally sit down and read it. And I want to say I wasn't really impressed. I feel like this book for me had the same issues that, what is that book? Cinderella is Dead had for me. In that, on one hand, the writing felt too juvenile for YA, but on the other hand, there were sections where it was clearly trying to be more grown. And then I don't feel like the girls had a lot of chemistry here. It started off pretty unique. I will say that it started off interesting. I thought I was going to like it. Like, we start off preparing for this wedding and there's lots of intrigue, and basically these two princesses end up dead and aren't sure how they ended up dead, and they have to go through these trials to be able to come back to life. And unfortunately, the trials weren't that fun. Like, they weren't that interesting. It didn't feel like the stakes were high enough. It didn't feel like there was a lot of investment. I wanted that sense of urgency, like they were really in danger. I don't know if we needed like a bigger cast. Like, it did not work for me at all. And I feel like some of the messaging was a little bit heavy-handed. I don't like that we fell into that stereotype that I've been seeing in a lot of sapphic fantasies, where there's this cartoonishly evil dad in the picture, and like it wasn't a vibe for me. It wasn't particularly memorable. I don't think it stood out among other YA fantasies. So unfortunately, I'm just going to end up unhauling this because there wasn't a whole lot to say. During Snowmageddon, I read Oxford Blood by Rachel Davis Featherstone, and I will say that I ended up liking this one more than I thought I would. So I would say this is what I wanted Ace of Spades to be. For one, it's set in the UK, whereas Ace of Spades was set in the US, but it was a version of the US that was UKified. Like, nothing about that really felt like the US to me. Not the school, any system or anything like that. And I felt like Ace of Spades had a lot of like harmful stereotypes in there, like in regards to wealth and status, whereas Oxford Blood had more realistic working class characters, which I appreciated. In here we're following Eva. She has always had dreams of going to Oxford, and it's interview week, which I believe interviews are usually like a day in real life, but it was embellished a little bit for this story. It helped that the author actually did go to Oxford too and brought her perspective here as a mixed race woman. And I also appreciated that Eva was acknowledged as mixed race, because I feel like, again, like that was an issue I had with Ace of Spades, with this mixed race character, but she didn't really feel like she was. This book has a good discussion about what it means to be mixed in very white spaces, and how you not necessarily fitting neatly into blackness, like, because she does live with her black father. Her mother died when she was younger. She definitely has a different experience in the world compared to him, and in some ways she is afforded privilege over other people because she's like the safe black person. And I thought that conversation was pretty well done. At the same time, she doesn't neatly fit into whiteness either. And Eva is there for interview week with her best friend slash trying to make him her boyfriend. They have like a little something going on, but not fully official. And he ends up getting killed. And they find his dead body in front of this statue of this colonizer on campus. Then she basically has to figure out who killed him before she ends up the next victim. So it's a pretty quick read. I read it all in a day. I was getting my hair done and I was just like listening to the audiobook for a good bit of time. And I thought there was some fun twists and turns. It had the secret societies, which we hear rumored about when it comes to Oxford, and some like little underground conspiracies here. Could it have gone a little bit more in depth? Yes. But overall, I think this is good beginner thriller for a younger crowd. Finally, I read Camp Twisted Pine, which was one that I've been meaning to read for months now. I've been saying I'm gonna read Camp Twisted Pine, and then that didn't happen. And even in January, it took me longer to read it than I should have. Not because it was bad, but it wasn't. I actually ended up really enjoying this. Like, it took me a little bit more to get into this one. But this one follows a young girl whose parents are in the middle of divorcing. So they basically send her and her brothers off to summer camp while her father moves out of the house so that they can deal with their drama without having the kids around. And she is not excited to go to camp. She's not a nature person. She's a book person. And then campers are disappearing, and one of her bunkmates ends up disappearing, and they have to figure out what happens. I thought that this was pretty well done. It was spooky enough for the middle grade crowd and the kids who are interested in that stuff without being too scary. I thought the twists were really done. I thought the pacing was great as well. It is in under 300 pages, middle grade, which I really appreciate because I complained about it for years, but middle grade got way too long, and we're finally starting to see it, get a little shorter again. And I thought the monster here was pretty cool, the way that nature was used as a weapon, and we definitely need more camp horrors. So this was fun times. I'm gonna pass along the hardcover copy I have of this to my niece. I think she'll enjoy it. So that was everything else that I read during the month of January. Let me know how your January was in the comment section below. If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.